Hello everyone, this is Kalyani Sahu from MSc first semester and I am going to present the topic which is function of excretory organ. These are my contents. As we know very well that the excretory system generally helps in the removal of excess of metabolic waste that is produced in our body, just like urea, water, carbon dioxide and other nitrogenous waste. Carbon dioxide and water are produced from the aerobic respiration pathway, whereas the salt is produced through several metabolic activities, and the nitrogenous waste are produced from the breakdown of excess of proteins and amino acids. Nitrogenous waste are like ammonia, urea, and uric acid, and many more. Ammonia is highly toxic and it requires more and more amount of water to be eliminated from the body, and it is generally seen in case of ammonotelic animals that are generally aquatic, whereas the urea and uric acid are comparatively less toxic than the ammonia. Organs that are involved in the excretion are kidney, lungs, skin, and liver. Nephron of the kidney filter out the excess urea and water and excrete them in the form of urine. Alveoli of the lung filter out the carbon dioxide from the blood, whereas the sweat gland of the skin excrete water and chemical waste, including trace amount of urea in form of sweat. Urea that are excreted from our body are produced in the liver. The general function of kidneys are removal of metabolic waste, removal of foreign chemicals, regulation of water balance and inorganic ion balances and acid base balances. The kidney also functions in the gluconeogenesis. That is the process in which glucose is produced from fatty acid or amino acid molecules to maintain the blood glucose level. Kidney also helps in the metabolism of some drugs that don't get metabolized in the liver, and in the production of hormones like erythropoietin, which helps in the production of RBC, and the enzyme renin is the path that is a part of renin angiotensin pathway. Now here is a picture explaining the excretory organ of the humans, which include the urinary system of the human, including kidney, ureter, urinary bladder and urethra, including other excretory organs just like liver, lungs and skin. Before going to the function, I would like to explain a little about nephron, structure of nephron, which include the Bowman's capsule, then the PCT, then PST means proximal straight tubule, then the descending limb of the loop of Henle, then thin segment of the ascending limb of loop of Henle, then thick segment of the ascending limb of loop of Henle, then the DCT means distal convoluted tubule, then comes the collecting duct, and the blood comes to the Bowman's capsules glomerulus from the afferent arteriole and lifts the glomerulus through the efferent arteriole. This is the pathway through which the blood flow into the kidney. Now let's come to the main function of the kidney, that is the urine formation. The urine formation includes three basic processes that include glomerular filtration, tubular reabsorption and tubular secretion. Glomerular filtration occurs when the blood enters the glomerulus through efferent arteriole. Due to the glomerular blood pressure, water and a small solute that is present in the blood move from the glomerulus to the inside of the capsule, but not the protein and blood cells and platelets. So the filtrates are devoid of proteins and blood cells. On an average, the daily volume of the glomerular filtrate is about 180 liters in the adult male, out of which more than 99% of the filtrate returns to the surrounding blood vessel via tubular reabsorption, and about 1 to 1.5 liter of this filtrate is excreted in the form of urine. The volume of the filtrate that is filtered by the Malpighian body is larger than the other capillaries that is present in the body because of the three reasons. There, glomerular capillaries present a large surface area for the filtration because they are long, and the filtration membrane are thin and porous, having the porocyte cells, and the glomerular capillary blood pressure is high because of the smaller diameter of the afferent arteriole than the efferent arteriole, which increases the blood pressure and thus the filtration. And here is the picture explaining how the filter filtrate is filtered from the capillaries to the space of Bowman's capsule. And one more thing, the filterability of the solute is inversely related to their size, means the larger molecules can be filtered from the glomerulus. Now, the amount of filtrate formed in all the renal capsule of both the kidney per minute is known as the glomerular filtration rate, which is approximately 125 ml per minute or the 7.5 liter per hour or 180 liter per day. The GFR is determined by the net filtration pressure and the glomerular capillary filtrate coefficient. There are three main: hydrostatic and osmotic pressure, which promotes the and opposes the filtration and creates the net filtration pressure. They are glomerular hydrostatic pressure, blood colloid osmotic pressure, and capsular hydrostatic pressure. Glomerular hydrostatic pressure is the blood pressure in the glomerular capillaries, and it is about 55 mmHg, and it generally promotes the filtration by forcing the water and solutes present in the blood plasma to pass through the filtration membrane. Whereas the capsular hydrostatic pressure is the hydrostatic pressure that exerts against the filtration membrane by the fluid already present in the capsular space. It opposes the filtration, and it is of magnitude 15 mmHg. The blood colloid osmotic pressure is the pressure develops due to the presence of proteins just like albumin, globulin that is present in the blood plasma, and this pressure generally opposes the filtration, and it values about 30 mmHg. So the net filtration pressure is equal to glomerular hydrostatic pressure minus the blood colloid osmotic pressure minus the capsular hydrostatic pressure, which comes about 10 mmHg. So a pressure of only about 10 mm of Hg causes the blood plasma to filter from the glomerulus into the capsular space, excluding all the plasma proteins. Then the regulation of glomerular filtration rate. Vasoconstriction and dilation of the afferent arteriole affects the rate of blood flow of the glomerulus and thus affect the glomerular filtration rate. Change in diameter of the afferent arteriole regulates the incoming of the blood and thus the glomerular blood pressure and the net filtration pressure. If the vasoconstriction occurs, the afferent arteriole diameter becomes smaller and the pressure also decreases, thus the GFR also decreases. But when the vasodilation occurs, the amount of blood flow increases, thus there is the increase of GFR. So we can say that adjustment of the afferent arteriole caliber diameter helps in the alteration of GFR. GFR is also regulated by renal autoregulation, which includes two mechanisms like myogenic constriction and the tubuloglomerular feedback, in which some stimulus disrupt the homeostasis of the body, which increases the glomerular filtration rate, and thus the macular cell of the juxtaglomerular apparatus act as the receptor and detect the increase in the delivery of the sodium and calcium and also the water, which imports the juxtaglomerular apparatus to control as the control center, which constricts the afferent arteriole and decreases the blood flow, thus back to the normal GFR. This is the pathway for the flow of glomerular filtrate, through which the filtrate pass from the glomerular capillaries to the renal pelvis, which include glomerular capillaries, Bowman's capsule space, then proximal convoluted tubule, proximal straight tubule, descending limb of loop of Henle, thin segment of ascending limb of loop of Henle, thick segment of ascending limb of loop of Henle, distal convoluted tubule, cortical collecting duct, and then medullary collecting duct, then to the renal pelvis. Tubular reabsorption is the highly selective process that retrieves the essential materials that are filtered from the tubular fluid and returns them to the bloodstream surrounding the nephron. Out of the 125 ml per minute filtrate, approximately 124 ml per minute are reabsorbed. The maximum amount of substance that are reabsorbed actively per unit time is termed as the transport maximum, but this active transport is except sodium ion. The epithelial cells all along the renal tubule and duct carry out this reabsorption process, but the proximal convoluted tubule cells make the largest contribution. Solutes are reabsorbed by both the active and passive process. The primary active transport derives energy from the hydrolysis of water, whereas the secondary active transport uses the energy stored as the electrochemical gradient. And the reabsorption route may be of paracellular type or transcellular type. In paracellular type, as we can see, water and solute in the tubular fluid return to the bloodstream by moving between the cell or the cell cytoplasm. But in the transcellular reabsorption, the solute and the water in the tubular fluid return to the bloodstream by passing through the tubular cell membrane uh, or through the space in between the cells. Now, as the fluid flow along the renal tubule and through the collecting ducts, the tubule and the duct cell also secretes substances include into the tubular fluid. These substances include potassium ions, hydrogen ions, urea, creatinine, and certain drugs like penicillin. This is termed as the tubular secretion, and this has two main important outcomes, which include the secretion of hydrogen ion helps to control the blood pH, whereas the secretion of several substances like urea, creatinine, and certain drugs not needed in our body are removed from the blood. Here is the picture showing the kidney reabsorption secretion. Means that there are different parts of nephrons have reabsorbed and secreted different type of substances through active and passive processes. Reabsorption and secretion in the PCT. The large amount of solute and water reabsorption of the from the filtered fluid occurs in the PCT, and it is also lined by the simple cuboidal brush-border epithelium, which increases the surface area for the reabsorption. It reabsorbs almost 65% of filtered sodium, chloride, bicarbonate, potassium, and all the filtered glucose and amino acid molecules. The solute reabsorption in the proximal convoluted tubule also promotes the osmosis of water due to the creation of the osmotic gradient, which also promotes the reabsorption of water via osmosis. Thus, the water reabsorbed with the solute is tubular fluid is termed as the obligatory water reabsorption. And the proximal convoluted tubule is the important site for the secretion of several organic acids and bases such as bile salts, oxalate, urate, catecholamine, and certain drugs. Also, the hydrogen ion, urea, creatinine, and bile salts. The reabsorption and secretion in the loop of Henle. The descending limb of the loop of Henle is highly impermeable to the water, whereas both the thin and thick segment of the ascending limb loop of Henle is highly permeable to ions but virtually impermeable to the water. The reabsorbed substances in the descending limb of the loop of Henle are generally water, but the reabsorbed substances in the ascending limb of the loop of Henle are ions such as sodium, chloride, potassium, calcium, bicarbonate, and magnesium ions. About 25% of these ions are reabsorbed from the loop of Henle, but mostly in the thick segment, not in the thin segment. Reabsorption and secretion in the DCT and collecting ducts. The early DCT functions almost same as the thick segment of the ascending limb of the loop of Henle, but the late DCT and the cortical collecting tubules are composed of two distinct type of cells, such as the principal cells and the intercalated cells. The permeability is controlled by the permeability of the filtrate or the water is controlled by the concentration of ATH hormone, that thus controlling the degree of dilution or the concentration of urine. Means the ADH concentration is directly proportional to the permeability of the water. The substances that are reabsorbed from the early DCT are sodium ions, calcium ions, chloride ions, and magnesium ions, whereas the reabsorbed substances from the late DCT and cortical collecting ducts are the sodium ions by the principal cells and the potassium and bicarbonates ion in the intercalated cells. And then the secreted substances in the late DCT and collecting ducts, cortical collecting ducts, are the potassium ions by the principal cell and the hydrogen ion by the intercalated cell. The reabsorbed substances are medullary from the medullary collecting ducts are the generally urea and sodium, whereas the secreted substances in the medullary collecting ducts are the hydrogen ions. The hormonal regulation of the tubular reabsorption and secretion includes the several hormones just like angiotensin 2, aldosterone, antidiuretic hormone, and atrial natriuretic peptide. But the ADH has the main function. ADH or the vasopressin released by the posterior lobe of the pituitary play the important role in the water reabsorption in the distal convoluted tubule and the collecting duct. ADH increases the water reabsorption. It generally stimulates the synthesis of aquaporin 2 and its insertion into the membrane of the principal cell. Therefore, the water reabsorption and the urine volume are regulated by the variation in the plasma level of the ADH. ADH acts as the binding to the GPCR receptor on the plasma membrane, and thus this receptor activate the enzyme adenylate cyclase through the G protein, which encourages the synthesis of CAMP, and this CAMP stimulates the synthesis of aquaporin 2 and their insertion into the apical membrane of the exocytosis. Apical membrane of the principal cell by the process of exocytosis. And then the water exists from the cell through the open water channel, that is aquaporin 3, permanently positioned at the basolateral border of the principal cell. So, a deficiency in the ADH secretion causes the diabetes insipidus, in which there is the excessive urination, that is the polyuria condition, and the excessive fluid intake condition, that is polydipsia condition. This is the renin angiotensin pathway through which the blood pressure is maintained in our body. When the blood pressure decreases, kidney produces renin, which converts the angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1, which in the presence of angiotensin converting enzyme is produced into the angiotensin 2 in the along with the atrial natriuretic factor from the lungs, which impacts on the which impacts on the vasoconstriction, also in the production of ADH, aldosterone from the adrenal cortex, and also increases the H2O and the sodium reabsorption. Thus, the blood pressure increases in our body. Chemical composition of the urine. Urine volume is about 95% of water and 5% of solute, out of which the largest solute fraction is devoted into the nitrogenous waste like urea, creatinine, and uric acid. The color of the urine is light yellow in color. It is due to the presence of urochrome and urobilin pigment. Urochrome pigment is produced from the breakdown of the bile, whereas the urobilin pigment is produced from the breakdown of hemoglobin. It is mildly aromatic because of the presence of ammonia-like substances. Urine of diabetic person has a fruity odor due to the presence of ketone bodies. Its pH ranges from the 4.6 to 8.0, but in an average, it is slightly acidic. On an average, it is 6.0. But the pH varies considerably with the diet. High protein diet increases the acidity, whereas the vegetarian diet increases the alkalinity. In urine, the specific gravity ranges from the 1.001 to 1.035, where means the higher the concentration of the solute, the higher the specific gravity. There are several abnormal urinary constituents, means if they are present in excess, they will cause some medical conditions, just like if the glucose concentration in the urine increases, it will cause glycosuria or glucosuria, which is the cause of diabetes mellitus. when the protein present high protein content present in the urine, it will lead to proteinuria. Ketone bodies lead to ketonuria, and such as leukocyte lead to pyuria, and then the erythrocyte leads to hematuria. Then the formation of concentrated urine. The ability of the formation of small amount of concentrated urine minimizes the intake of the fluid to maintain the homeostasis of the body. The two basic requirements for the formation of the concentrated urine are a high level of ADH hormone and a high osmolarity of the renal medullary interstitial fluid. A large vertical osmotic gradient is maintained uniquely in the interstitial fluid of the medulla of each kidney. The osmolarity of the interstitial fluid throughout the renal cortex is isotonic at 300 milliosmol, but in the medulla it increases progressively to the maximum of the 1200 milliosmol at the junction of renal pelvis. The formation of the concentrated urine involves the countercurrent mechanism, which is furtherly divided into two subtypes, that are countercurrent multiplication and the countercurrent exchange. Countercurrent multiplication is the process by which a progressively increasing osmotic gradient is formed in the interstitial fluid of the renal medulla as a result of countercurrent flow. Countercurrent multiplication involves the long loop of Henle of the juxtamedullary nephrons, and its descending and ascending limbs are considered as the countercurrent multipliers. Countercurrent exchange is the process by which solute and the water are passively exchanged between the blood of vasa recta and the interstitial fluid of the renal medulla as a result of countercurrent flow. The vasa recta also considered as the descending and ascending limb that are parallel to each other and to the loop of Henle. Just as the tubular fluid flows opposite direction in the loop of Henle and blood flow in the opposite direction in the ascending and descending limb of the vasa recta, it is considered as the countercurrent flow. And this flow, the exchange of solute and water between the blood and interstitial fluid is known as the countercurrent exchange, and the renal medulla and the vasa recta is considered as the countercurrent exchanger. This is the picture showing the countercurrent mechanism in which the osmolarity increases from 300 to 1200, moving from the cortex to medulla. Urea is formed from the ammonia, carbon dioxide and aspartate in a cyclic pathway referred to as urea cycle in the hepatocyte cell of the liver. Because the urea cycle was discovered by the Krebs and Henslett, it is oftenly known as the Krebs-Henslett cycle. It consists of 5 sequential enzymatic reactions, out of which the first 2 occurs in the mitochondria and the remaining 3 takes place in the cytosol. And by this process, 4 highly energized phosphate are consumed in the synthesis of the urea, one molecule of the urea. There are some pathology related to the function of excretory system, such as the glomerulonephritis, in which the antigen and antibody complex is formed in the glomerulus, and renal failure or renal insufficiency, and in both of the condition the GFR rate decreases considerably, and so the blood become so impure. So all this condition can be overcome by the process of medical treatment known as dialysis. In dialysis, the blood is removed from the vein by a tube and then pumped through the special tubules that act like the nephrons outside the body by possessing tiny pores which allow the salt and small molecules to pass through it. Then the waste diffuse out of the blood into the fluid filled chamber, allowing the purified blood to be returned to the body. Here is a simplified picture showing the dialysis, the blood. Now, conclusion. The main function of the excretory system is to get rid of the bodily waste. It is one of the most important system in the body because of the waste it get rid of is harmful for our body, and if they build up in the body for the long period, it can be fatal for us. So it should be eliminated from our body. These are my references. Thank you so much for your valuable time, and sorry for any inconvenience caused by me.